my lovelies, and welcome to my booktube channel, The Sassy Library Fox. My name is V, and today I'm going to talk about all the books I read in October. I'm pretty late with this video because I was ill those last, 1.5 weeks, I think. I managed to get an ear infection that unfortunately turned into a sinusitis, and so I've been sick and at home, and I honestly couldn't do anything the first couple of days. I'm glad that I can read now. I'm glad that I'm back at work again, but I'm still getting tired very easily, and if I look like a vampire right now, I'm very sorry, but that's the look we're going with in this video. And yeah, we just rock it. Or I'll try to rock the vampire look. Anyway, because of that, I might not have as much energy as I usually have in my videos. Please forgive me. Next video will hopefully be better and easier once again. Okay, but this out of the way and this said, I want to talk about the books I read in October, and as you all know, I read a couple of books for Rainboween, so I will talk about those too. And the first book I read in October was actually a book I wanted to read for about a year or so. I'm very sorry to the author. I got it as a review copy and it took me ages to get to it, but the book I'm talking about is Storm Warning by Beth Doyle. And this book, I would say it's middle grade-ish, even though the characters are already 17 or older. But it had something middle grade-ish about it because it's basically about the MC named Frankie, and Frankie Myers lost her brother in a car accident. She's still reeling from the loss of him when she walks in Temple Bar in Dublin one afternoon and is suddenly dragged into a magical world she never knew existed. And well, this book, it was fun to read. It totally gave me the middle grade-ish vibes. At the beginning I was a little confused because we are right dropped into the middle of that magical world, and everything Frankie finds out, we find out alongside with her. And apparently she's, I don't want to say the chosen one, but it definitely had vibes like that. At first I had trouble to get into the book because the writing style is very descriptive and lyrical, and it's not that easy to get into it, but once I got into the story and once Matthew Morrow, one of the side characters, comes into the book, it totally took off and I loved it. I swear Matthew is one of the best sidekicks I ever read about. Honestly, I love that one so much. And this book was really fun to read. Sometimes I really like to, break out of my usual reading habits and read a middle grade book because it's all adventure and fun. And yeah, this one was definitely adventure and fun, and all the characters were great, even the villains. So I gave this 4 paws because I really enjoyed it, and I think it's the first book in a series, but I haven't seen anything about the second book yet, so I don't know. This one was written in 2020, so I hope there will be a second book, because this one ended quite, let's say, abruptly. Okay, I won't spoil anything, but I really enjoyed that book, and thank you so much to Beth for offering me her book to read. Okay, the second book I read in October was one that was on my list for Rainboween, and it was What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. I've never read the T. Kingfisher book before, but I really enjoyed that one. It were just about 177 pages, but those 177 pages packed quite a punch. I loved how T. Kingfisher managed to build up such an atmospheric and slightly creepy book in just such a short amount of pages. Not every author can pull that off, but yeah, T. Kingfisher did. And I loved Easton, the non-binary MC, and honestly, the narration was just so much fun. There was some sort of fine humor in the book. I don't know if this is typical for Kingfisher, but the humor was awesome. I dig that kind of humor in my books. And well, as what it is about, it's basically a retelling of The Fall of the House of Usher, which was originally written by Edgar Allan Poe. And I really liked that new take on it. And oh, it was creepy at some parts, not gonna lie. Easton visits his childhood friend Madeline and Roderick Usher, and Madeline has a really, a fatal sickness of some sorts. No one knows what she has, but she will die soon. And Easton comes to their estate, and it's really creepy. So, yeah. I really liked that, and what I didn't expect to find in this book and what was really amazing was that there was a tinnitus presentation. Easton has a tinnitus, and as someone who has suffered from tinnitus for years, and I don't know if a lot of you know that about me, but I've had a tinnitus for years now, and it doesn't look like it will ever vanish again. But it was so nice to see that representation on page. I really loved it, and it was really such a great thing to add to that story. And as I already said, there is a lot that happens in those 177 pages, but it's done so well. Also, the tinnitus rap, amazing, loved it. All the characters, from Angus to Miss Potter to, I don't know, they were all great. Okay, so I gave this, I think, 4 paws, maybe even 4.5, I don't know. It was great, definitely a high rating. I think it was 4. Anyway, let's move on to the third book I read in October, and it was A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. And well, A Dowry of Blood is basically a polyamorous queer Dracula retelling, and at least that's what you're supposed to think when you get into it, but it quickly turned out to be so much more than that. I honestly didn't expect the story to go into this kind of direction, but it was still great to read. I think this was a really interesting read because you basically could sum up the entire book by saying one sentence, and that would be Dracula is collecting his brides in Europe. Okay, so obviously the book is about way more than that. And it was interesting to read. We follow Constanza, who is brought back to life by Dracula. She seems to be some sort of war casualty, and Dracula revives her and makes her into a vampire. And from then on out, she's his first bride. And well, let's just say Dracula's hunger for pretty people isn't quite sated yet. So he sets out with Constanza, and they add Magdalena to Dracula's brides. And after a couple of centuries, Alexis comes to them as well, which I love because Alexis is a man. So that was great. I love that not all of Dracula's brides were girls, but there was a man as well. And with Alexis, there comes some sort of change among the brides. I don't want to spoil anything here, but this was dark in a completely and entirely different way than I expected it to be, because Dracula is very controlling and manipulating, and we have certain topics and trigger warnings that that come with that. I would just say it in a spoiler now, so if you don't want to hear it, you just continue to the next and last book I read in October. If you want to know the trigger warnings, I'm going to talk about them now. It's basically a lot of domestic abuse, emotional domestic abuse. It has the topics of gaslighting and, well, yes, also the topic of physical abuse. So that was a direction I didn't expect the book to take. It was more like some sort of domestic violence take, if you want to say it like that. And I honestly didn't expect that, but I think it was an interesting approach to a story that's been told for a very long time. And yeah, of course, there comes a time and a moment when his three brides can't accept his behavior anymore. And yeah, I guess we all know how it's going to end. Okay, end of the spoilery section. I hope you're warned. If those triggers are something you can't deal with, you better should keep your fingers away from the book. But if you can deal with those triggers, it's a really interesting story. The writing style is great. It keeps you glued to the pages, even though it has a very slow pacing and not a lot of things happen, but it still keeps you reading. So that's quite something. That's a feat. Okay, and I think I rated this 4 paws, and it were well-deserved 4 paws, even though the story went into an entirely different direction than I expected it to go. Okay, and the last book I read in October is totally not spooky. I needed something different to read while I read all the spooky stuff, and it turned out to be an arc I got from NetGalley named 10 Things That Never Happened by Alexis Hall. And I really like Alexis Hall's books because they are fun to read. And this one was no exception to the rule. I loved to be in Sam's head. It's so funny because the story or the plot is actually that Sam, who is named Samwise, with his full name, by the way. His mother seemed to be a Lord of the Ring fan. Samwise has a cat named Gollum. I love that. I so love that. And the cat, well, let's see, Gollum went through a lot in his life. Anyway, Sam, the main character, runs a branch of his boss in another city. I can't really remember what it was, but anyway, he runs a branch of his boss empire in a different part of the country. And one day, his boss asks him to come to him to London, I think, to talk about the way he manages his branch. And apparently he's not happy with the loss of money they had. There have been incidents with some of his co-workers and they kind of try to make it better, but it's not easy with the employees he has. So what happens is that Jonathan, Sam's boss, is about to fire him and gets closer and closer. They are pretty agitated. They have an argument and Sam is running into a door which falls on him because it was a shower door, and then he suffers a concussion. And because the hospital is so full and he can't really remember at first what happened and is a little bit dazed and out of it, I mean, it was a concussion, obviously, he passed out. So everyone kind of assumes that he lost his memory and that he has amnesia. And this gives him a chance to get to know Jonathan better and to probably, hopefully, not be fired. So Jonathan takes him home because the hospital finds no one in his contacts they would be able to call. So Jonathan takes full responsibility because it was basically a work accident and takes him home with him. And well, what can I say? Those two grow a little bit closer and understand where each other is coming from. So it was a really nice from enemies to lovers trope. Also grumpy and sunshine. Jonathan is definitely a grump. It's hard to love him, but there are some endearing things about him. Like, for instance, that he likes, or that basically Sam's cat likes him. So I really liked that story. It was fun to read. It was a lot of fun to be in Sam's head. He is really quite the character. But if I would have to say something that didn't sit so well with me with the book, I would say the only thing I didn't like that much was that everything was revealed very fast at the ending of the book. And I personally would have liked a little bit more time to work through all the issues that were addressed at the ending. And also, we never got a lot about Sam's past, and then we kind of are, I don't know, it all comes so suddenly, and we finally find out. But I really wish the author would have taken a little bit more time with that. I love Alexis Hall's books, but I always have the feeling that the ending is kind of rushed, if that makes sense. So I just would have liked a couple of more chapters in which all the things that happened in the last, I don't know, 3 chapters would have been addressed and more discussed in depth or at length, I think. I think that's what I want to say. But either way, I was very entertained with this story. I enjoyed it a lot. Sam was a great narrator. And I had fun. So I gave this 4 paws and I really enjoyed it. Okay, so those were the 4 books I read in October. Not all of them were creepy, but I just had to read something in between that was different. As some sort of counterbalance, you might say. So, well, I would love to hear what you read in October. If you took part in Rainboween, which kind of books you read? Were they spooky? Did you read something entirely different? Because you don't like spooky books, or you're a scaredy fox like me. If you read Rainboween books, please let me know which kind of books you read, and if you like them, you can write it down in the comments below. I'm always up for a bookish discussion about great Rainboween reads. And well, I guess I'm already at the ending of my video and there's nothing left to say except of take care, stay healthy and safe, and see you around the next time. Bye!